we're on now?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just thinking about a ZZ Top song,
Yeah.
you know, Sharp Dressed Man. I was just thinking about that. Some of our audience hopefully is old enough to remember
Right.
ZZ Top, right? Okay, all right. We're kind of caught in the middle of a conversation here. But hey, welcome to another evening of
Banging on the table.
banging on the table. That's right. Banging on the table.
You're always good for one, right? You gotta set
Yeah,
the
I know. I've
precedent.
got to. I got to start doing this now. So Dan, welcome back. It's nice to have Dan again back on our show.
Always a pleasure.
So we've got a small group that does really well, Dan, and you're one of those. So we appreciate that. Plus, you add a lot of,
flattered.
you know, you're able to add a lot of questions. You know, you'll hear a question, and then I'll make you think of something, and then we'll kind of go off one another. So I appreciate that too. Really quick, I had one of the. I've been getting emails from some of you, and that's been really great because I've had the opportunity to answer some questions. And again, we're not trying to play online priest here or anything. You know, don't go to your priest. We're not trying to do any of that. Obviously, your parish priest is always the source. But for those kind of getting introduced to Orthodoxy or have questions, that's kind of what we're here for. So anyway, one of the questions that came up was, which is about confession. All right. And confession is a sacrament, right? Okay, good.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Okay, good. But, you know, it's not well practiced by Greeks. And there's reasons for that, some good, some bad. All right. And the question that came up that I just really briefly want to talk about, and some of you may also have kind of your own questions about confession, is, you know, when I go to confession, and we're going to get past the why should I go to confession. You know, let's set that aside. We can answer all that stuff. But assuming I do go to confession, you know, if I keep saying the same things over and over again, what's the real point? Okay, I cursed 3 times. I hit my brother. I don't like my wife. You know, all those kinds of things. I killed a man. Right? Okay. Yeah, those are. So what's the point? All right. So the answer to that is that that's not the point. And as my spiritual father taught me, the point of confession is so that you can remove the obstacles that prevent you from having a true relationship with God, Jesus Christ, all right? And, you know, there's always something that weighs heavy on your heart, right? Okay. If you turn it into a list, then, you know, it's just like the Godfather movie. You know, here's a list of sins. Forgive me because I got a week of sinning I got to get busy on. Okay, so we want to get past that. So you come to confession because there's something you have to confess, something very serious, okay? And that's where the psychological aspect of confession. Remember, in the Orthodox Church, there's always the mysteria, there's always the sacramental part of it, but there's also the practical part of it. The practical part of it is the psychology of it, is to stop having you do those things, whatever it is that you're doing. You know, drinking, smoking, you know, beating your wife, which all of you shouldn't do, right? The priest is there to help you on that spiritual path. So when you go to confession, try to avoid the list and more be concerned about those things that weigh very heavily upon you. And then you'll see that it's different every time because you're going to have different types of problems. Or it may be the same kind of problem, but you're experiencing a new level of it, okay? So I've stopped doing this, but now this problem has arose, okay? And then he can take you through that. The priest is not a psychologist. We're not trained in psychology or anything like that. We're more triage. If you have a serious issue, then the priest will refer you, but he'll refer you to those sources that recognize the spiritual importance. They won't send you to a secular psychologist. They'll send you to one that can appreciate the fact that a spiritual healing is as important as a physical healing. All right. So I just wanted to make that quick comment about confession, and obviously if you've got more questions we can kind of answer those, but that's kind of how to keep confession from being stale, is saying those things that really weigh heavy upon you. All right, do we have anything?
I have a question regarding that. Yeah. So for someone who has maybe a substance abuse issue and they are going to need more than they need that spiritual help, right?
Yeah.
But also that physical or mental help, right?
Right.
You have like a list of practitioners, experts who would be able to assist them, but also they're in the faith or
that now
acknowledge spirituality or something?
Most priests,
Does that make sense?
if they, oh yeah, for sure. Most priests, if they've been in a parish about 5 years or more, they know the town well enough to know who. More than likely, it's not going to be a psychologist who is Orthodox. I mean, they certainly are, but they're kind of confined to sometimes the larger cities. All right. So more than likely, it's going to be somebody who might be Catholic or who might be Protestant, and they will help them with their substance abuse problem with that spiritual component, but they will refer those spiritual matters like confession, Holy Communion, unction to the parish priest. So that's the kind of relationship we establish with them. But, you don't have to go to an Orthodox psychologist, but you should go to somebody who is a practicing Christian.
Very good. Thank you.
We had a question from last week about the thief on the cross.
Yes, and the answer is yes. On Holy Friday in the Greek Orthodox Church, the Dismas is actually the saint who was on the right side of Jesus. Today I say you will be in paradise with me. So yes, he was made a saint of the church, and we celebrate him on Holy Friday. So,
All right, shall we get going?
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So question number 1, or Anna, right?
Right.
It's from Charlie. What is a typical home Orthodox practice, excluding church activities? Can you outline what a typical day might look like, please? Been saying Jesus prayers, but interested to develop further. Thanks.
Well, I mean, for the most part, it's going to be a day like, think about your day, right? I mean, it's going to be a day like most days. But normally speaking, you're going to have some type of icon corner, right? Where you have your icons and things like that. Some people, when they wake up in the morning, they like to say a small prayer in front of the icon, thanking them for waking up in the morning, right? That I'm able to be here. All right. Some people like myself, Presbytera has a very beautiful icon of Christ right by the door that I leave. And so every morning when I leave, I make sure I make the sign of my cross, and then I reference the icon, and it gets me to think about Christ, and that I am called to be Christ-like. So an Orthodox home will have icons to remind us that every day we are to be Christ-like. All right. Once going to work, I'm trying to think of things that we would do when we're driving along. If we see a church, Orthodox tend, regardless of the church, it's house of God, we tend to do our cross as we go by the church. So you're kind of driving on the way to church or to your office or wherever you work, and you see a church, and you're going to do that. Okay. Typically, when you get to the office, all right, I like to have an icon either on the wall, or I'd have something on my desk. So again, something to remind me, and I have it there as a witness. Orthodox like to be the silent witness, so that when people come up and they say, hey, wow, okay, I see that icon. So that doesn't look like, we're Protestant. We don't really have that. Explain that to me. I get to talk. So an Orthodox person is always ready to engage about his faith. Not in an evangelical way, like, but in a, just, hey, let me, you asked about the icon? Let me talk to you about that. All right. Normally speaking, I like to, with my parishioners especially, I like to have them comfortable enough that they feel free that during the day, if they got a question, they text me. So I'll usually get texts pretty much every day from parishioners who will just out of the blue just ask me questions, right? So having a regular conversation with your priest, again, I'm not saying like what's the movie with James Caan and she breaks his legs.
Misery.
Not like Misery, right? You don't want to do it like Misery, right? Where you're hunting the person down, but a question here or there, hey, that's no problem. So those would be kinds of the things. Now and then when you come home at night, certainly you'll have the prayer before dinner, and then you'll have the apodipno, which is then after dinner. You'll have those either after dinner prayers or before you retire prayers. Okay, and that would be some of the things that I would think would consist of a Orthodox day.
So when do you whip yourself 5 or 10 times?
So I did have to take that away when we actually came to your house. I did have to take that away from you because Demos was being too Orthodox. So I had to calm him down. He was a little
overdoing it.
Yeah.
Overindulgent.
Yes.
How about this might be associated prayer rope?
Oh yeah, and actually, a prayer rope is a very nice thing to wear because it reminds us throughout the day because you see it, right?
Yeah,
and you're thinking to yourself, why am I wearing this? Yeah, okay. And then again, with the, as you go through the day, you get stressed out or something like that. Rather than have worry beads or clacker beads or that finger thing spinning that they've got. What is that spinning thing?
I think they're called spinners.
Spinners, right? The spinners,
yeah.
right? Okay, so this is what we have then, right? Is because again we remember that it's going to be okay. Jesus says, let me share your burdens, okay, or give your burdens unto me, and so we see that reminds us. So that's a really good point. Is that this is a visual cue of how to de-stress.
Yeah.
But you try to live by example,
Absolutely.
and you
right.
Also not so much on a typical day, but you want to help your community. You can't just live a life just praying every morning, praying every night, and that's it.
Oh yes, that's a good point too. Is because during the day you're always going to be presented with an opportunity to help somebody. I have not gone through a single day in my life where I have not been presented that opportunity. I have gone through a day in my life where I have not acted on that. Okay, but every day God gives you the opportunity to interact with His creation, and Demos is right. That's a big part of orthopraxis, right? There's orthodoxy and orthopraxis, practice.
Yeah, perfect. All right, the next question by Tothian. Can a church be dedicated to someone who is not a canonized saint, but was Orthodox Christian? For example, an important character of the history of a country.
I would have to say on that no. Names of churches are typically restricted to either canonized or recognized saints of the church or feast days of the church. Like we're Annunciation, right? So we're a feast day. My previous parish was Assumption. That's a feast day. All right. But no, you cannot name a church just after, like, we couldn't have this church named, Demosthenes Orthodox Church, even though Demosthenes is a
saint.
There's a saint,
yeah,
right? But just not, or Themistocles, right? This is the Themistocles Orthodox Church, okay, or Zeus Orthodox Church. We can't do that. It would have to be a saint. But you're right, there is a Saint Demosthenes, and we could do that.
Start if you want to build my church. I'll send you some pictures for the icons.
No, you're gonna be like Field of Dreams. Build it, and they will come. They will come.
I'll charge admission.
That's all we need is a statue of Demosthenes in there, right?
Pointing to the sky like Zephram Cochrane.
Yeah, that's right. Zephram Cochrane.
So speaking of history, we have a historical figure asking the next question.
Oh, boy.
Napoleon. Why do we pray to the cross? Isn't that idolatry?
So again, he's absolutely right. We do not pray to the cross. Worship in the Orthodox Church, as it should be in every Christian expression, is restricted to the Holy Trinity. Worship is only for Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We do not worship anything else. That includes the Virgin Mary. All right? So we do not pray to the cross, but we recognize that through the cross, salvation has come to us. Through His passion on the cross, we have now received salvation. So we recognize what the cross has done and what it represents, but it has no worship value.
All right. Excellent. Trench is next. All right. Can you trust the judgment of a person when they might be under duress? The Greek anthem in full calls for the patriarch during Greek independence bloodied the demise due to betrayal, which he put a curse on the Greeks and called
Anathema.
anathema on anyone for the war.
Okay, so which war are we talking about now? I mean, are we talking about Saint Germanos that was blessing the soldiers as they went into battle against the Ottoman Empire? Are we talking about the wars?
The one that's connected to the Greek anthem, I assume.
Yeah.
Oh, so that would be
So
of independence then.
Mhm.
Okay, so that
during Greek independence.
during Greek independence. So that would be, so they're 1820, right? 1825, the Unicea, right? Isn't that the Independence Day for Greece, 1825, right?
25th of March of 1821.
21. Okay. Yeah, there's a 25 in there somewhere. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So again, the first part of the question is,
Can you trust the judgment of a person when they might be under duress?
So I guess like in a war, right? In battle, in some type of.
well, isn't that kind of what the CIA depends upon? is telling the truth under duress? I mean, isn't that in times of distress, I think that's when truth is going to come out. I mean, there are certainly soldiers that are trained to resist that even under distress or duress or distress. But for the average person, I think that truth comes out under distress, So, so in that case, it's a question that depends again. I mean, it depends upon the person, and what they're saying and what the duress is. Are they under duress to renounce Christ, right? I've got a gun pointed at your head and I say, do you believe in Christ? And if you believe in Christ, I will shoot you, right? That's duress, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Can I believe what you say to me when you got a gun pointed at your head? I mean, if you say, no, I don't believe, right? Is that a true statement? Do you not believe? Or is the duress creating that? Okay. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can answer, yes, I believe, and then know that they will be killed. Not everybody is a martyr like that.
That's why you can't trust the testimony of somebody who has been tortured. People lie.
Right, just to end it. If nothing else, just to end it. So yeah, I would have to say, I mean, again, there are people that can resist that, but for the most part, right?
And some people are conditioned. If like a CIA agent, right, they might be able to withstand it longer and more thoroughly if
or show or lie
better.
Lie better, right? Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay, Natalia has a question. Why are bishops given a new name?
Well, again, you're not necessarily given a new name unless now there is a reason for it. So in my case, I was Evangelos. So there was no reason to give me a new name. Okay. If I was, I'm trying to think of Bob. Okay. Since there's no Saint Bob, I would be given then another name. All right. Now, so sometimes in that case, if we have a bishop, okay, a newly ordained bishop, we might give him a name that is going to be of a saint because he doesn't have that name. So it'd be similar to kind of my situation. All right. But also that bishop could be given a name that is representative of what his calling is going to be. If he's going to, let's say he's going to a monastery, maybe he'll be named Anthony, or he'll be named after a particular region that he may be going to. So because he wants to, that will make him more in touch with the people that are there. So there could be another reason for a bishop, but most of the time it's because there is he needs to have a Christian name.
I'm just waiting for a comment coming up. Oh, you forgot about Saint Bob of.
Yeah, that's right. Saint Bob of. Oh, Terry found it.
There is Saint Robert. There we go. Salzburg.
Saint Robert of Salzburg. Okay.
There we go.
But like Terry's dad, his name was Bob. It was not Robert. It was Bob. So
Next
some people
time my
are just
example will be Joe Bob.
Joe Bob.
Good luck, Terry.
It's a good challenge. Okay, Nick's question is next. Kalispera, Father and Gang.
Kalispera.
Those who are alive at the second coming, will they have time to repent, or will it be too late?
It's never too late. As St. John Chrysostom says in the Paschal sermon, even those at the 11th hour come forward and receive your joy. All right? So we always have time, even unto our last breath. Okay? So, yes, absolutely. If you are alive, you have time. But you don't know how long you're going to be alive for, right? So you have to be always in a state of readiness.
Absolutely.
Unless you're planning something.
Right? Yeah.
All right. M. Horvath.
M. Horvath.
Horvath, excuse me, is next. So compared to Catholic and Protestant church history, would it be fair to say that the Orthodox Church has persecuted heretics far less or less extremely? If so, why?
Well, I mean, I don't have exact numbers, but during the iconoclastic controversy, where we had quite a few monastics because of the abuses of iconography, there was quite a bit of violence on the part of the Orthodox at that time. So that's one of our darker periods. But in terms of numbers, are our numbers equal to Roman Catholic numbers? I would say not. But I would say that for the reason that for 400 years we were occupied. I mean, we weren't able to establish armies, and so we weren't on the Great Crusades, right? Okay, so from that standpoint, we really didn't have an opportunity. I don't want to say to pillage, okay, all right, but the occupation by the Ottoman Empire really held us prisoner, as opposed to the West that was much freer.
We have a couple of follow-ups. Number one, Trench specifies that he was referring to Gregory V of Constantinople, 1821, and Torian has a question. Why give Bob? Let's continue with Bob. Why give Bob a new name instead of making an opportunity to have a Saint Bob?
Well, we have to find a Saint Bob, right?
Well, I mean, that's the idea. Like, if you change your name, then there will never be an opportunity for you to become Saint Bob.
Yeah, but that's not the way the system works. The system in the Orthodox Church for sainthood grows organically. So we don't go around looking for saints. A person through his life will be a witness, and people who have encountered that person, they will raise their voices to the church and say, this person now should be a saint. All right.
That's not the point.
The point is, like, if they change their name and they later are considered as saints, then there's no opportunity for a new name to be entered into.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is what stops Bob, whoever that is, from acting in a saint? Why do we have to give him a saint? Why do we have to put a saint in front of him, to make him into a saint? He or she, or it's Bob. He has to show his character. The saints didn't become saints because they wanted to be a saint.
That's not the question. The question is, all right, if somebody named Bob, right, it becomes a bishop and they change their name to Gerasimo, okay?
Right.
And he later, after his death, is recognized as a saint.
Right.
That because he's changed his name to Gerasimo, now he'll be known as Saint Gerasimo, where if he had kept his name, now he would have a new name in the pool of saints. We'd have a Saint Bob, a brand new name. I guess.
Yeah. I mean, but then we're going for the glory of the name. I don't see the point in that. It's
leave it in your will. Leave it in your will. If I ever become canonized,
I want to be
Saint Bob. I
mean, I can kind of understand the question, where the question is going, but But the point of sainthood is not to get a name, right? Is not so that we can have every name covered as a saint. The point is that we have models before us. The person who became Gerasimos, the Bob who became Gerasimos, he's the important one.
I think at the end of the day is you don't need to be a bishop to become a saint. So
No,
yeah.
absolutely.
So you
Well,
don't
yeah,
you don't
exactly.
necessarily
Because
need-
many
yeah.
monastics had become saints, and were not bishops.
And that's the reason I don't need to be a saint. There's already Saint Demosthenes, so I can have fun.
Right. But is there, Terry, have more commentary?
Let's just move on.
No.
All right. On that note, Nicholas has a question. Do you have any insight or commentary on Boaz and Ruth?
Oh,
Yes, please.
I don't know what commentary to have. I mean, it's Old Testament. I mean, I guess I would have to study and find out, something in particular. I mean, so
It's broad. It's
a broad question. So I guess at this point the answer is no. I don't have commentary on Boaz
Do you
and
have
Ruth.
any particular insight for like Ruth's story or something that we should have a takeaway from that? I mean, that's the way we kind of explore our Sunday school episode.
Yeah, right. Yep.
We try to we look at these familiar stories and we try to take a look at it from a way that most people don't look at. But
Right.
we have to sit down. I mean, like we just did today. We just did the story of Joseph, right?
Right.
And we've thought about this is the ultimate story of forgiveness. But we didn't want to just put out the same video of Joe. It's good to forgive. It's all right, even though it's a good lesson. But we try to add something that we haven't thought of before.
So again, it really requires then for us, and as you said, with our Sunday school videos, what we do is we look at those Old Testament characters, and then we both study commentary on that to see what points we really want to bring out in those stories. So I can put it down, and I can come back. I can come back with a commentary for.
Because my memory of that was of Boaz and Ruth specifically is it's not strong enough for me to make a statement at the moment. So we would have to save that for next week. So you have more homework.
This show always gives me homework.
Shall we?
All right, next. Right? I see so many questions, yet which seems confusing and impossible, which wouldn't it be better to give a list of what is a sin improper? So, and then the last part is, weekly churchgoers don't know it all, or at times priest.
So wouldn't it be
So I think
easier if you can give out a list of to churchgoers of what is a sin and what is proper?
Actually, we actually
I thought
have
that's the Bible.
no, but they're looking for specific things. Actually, in our online catechism, in the section of sacraments, I think it's section 8. There is a reading guide in there just on confession, and at the end of that guide is a listing of what we consider to be sins and a couple of pages of thought starters to help you prepare for communion. So we already have that. So check out the adult catechism on our education page, and that article in within that catechism on confession. That'll be helpful for you. It'll provide exactly what you're talking about.
It's on our website. It's under the education tab. It's called Catechism. It has its own separate section.
Great. Okay, next question. The dinosaur head. I think this is more of a statement than a question.
Okay.
But I like it, and I think we all will. All right, so good morning. I'm guessing
Good evening.
they're in a different time
zone, right?
Yeah. I went to my first divine liturgy at a Romanian church.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it was the wall of incense or what, but I have definitely felt something different than when I have gone to my RC mass.
This
so
is our
Roman
this is our
Catholic.
friend from Japan.
I was going to say because good morning, because I know from experience that China is 13 hours ahead. So
So Japan, yeah. This is the gentleman that travels quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he's saying that he found something in there that
Felt
he
something
didn't see in
different,
the
yeah.
RC church. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Hmm. And I really do believe that the ancientness of the service and the structure just transports you back to, that 4th century time, because it's the same liturgy, it's the same well, it's not the same incense, but it's the same the same smell, right? He's using the same kind of censer. You have the deacon, the vestments are the same. I mean, you are literally transported to what was happening 1700 years ago. So I can understand that. And you don't see that in most RC churches today.
There is that sense that when you go into an Orthodox church, you get that the smell of incense, not only just the candles, but the smell. I've done videos in many different churches before, and you walk into a modern Roman Catholic church. I don't mean this as an insult, but it smells like any other building. You walk into the church here, and you immediately, it's like that you're in a different place.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's powerful. Okay, so Matthew is next. What's any priest's legal obligation on confession, like killing or anything else?
Actually, this question came up before. I know that the veil of confession, like the whole lawyer thing, it's my client attorney privilege. Okay, same type of thing. Yeah. That I am not allowed to reveal anything that comes up in confession, but some states, like Michigan, have a mandatory reporting requirement for crimes against children. So that is one thing that is not sacred under the veil of confession, so that I would have to report. Because just because somebody says they're going to kill somebody does not necessarily mean they're going to do that. Now, there are, depending upon how the priest judges the situation, then the priest is going to react to that. I am so mad at my husband, I want to kill him right now. And so, okay, no, wait, okay, hey, whoever it is, Tracy, Judy, whatever it is, let's come down, let's think through this, so it's my job that if I hear something like that, it is my responsibility to kind of, pull her back from the ledge, okay, and then say to her, hey, this is not what we should be doing. Why don't the three of us maybe go have dinner, or let me take you back to the house, just so that, I don't leave her in that situation where she could go through with it. So I do have responsibilities. So it's not like I hear the confession and I say, well, okay, you shouldn't kill your husband, and then let it go. Right. So, no. But generally speaking, except for that, not generally speaking, absolutely speaking, except for that one condition that I mentioned, everything is covered by the veil of
secrecy.
Protection and secrecy.
Yeah,
right.
But there's also, like, it's even if somebody came up to you and said, I want to confess I killed 17 people on the highway today.
Right.
You would still push them towards turn yourself in.
Absolutely right. Yeah. That's my role. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so perfect. Next question from Aaron. Hi, everyone. My first question, because some people are still concerned about COVID and being around people, can confession be done over Zoom or any kind of video call? So rather than in person?
Can sacraments be done like that?
Virtually, yeah.
Well, okay. Communion can't.
Yeah.
Anointing with oil can't. All right. I'll tell you what. I mean, I have known of situations where the spiritual father is just geographically located distant from the confessee. Okay, the confessee has moved on, right? But they want to maintain that person as their spiritual father. So absolutely, they'll call them on the phone and they'll have a confession with them. So Zoom, I guess, as long as it's private, can be that very same thing. Typically, though, what will happen with that is that the act of absolution, the sacrament of absolution, which is putting the betachili on your head and then actually the sins of forgiveness, that will be done that has to be done in person. So, I have a couple of people here that's their confession. They have a spiritual father that is geographically distant. So they will have that that time with the spiritual father. The spiritual father will call me and say, I have already talked to my spiritual child and she has confessed to me. I'm asking that you do the prayer of absolution. He or she will come in and then I'll do that. But that part has to be done in person. But the actual confession can be done by the phone, by the Zoom. It's fine.
All right, great. Betty is next. Are you allowed to attend a Catholic church, not for communion, just for eulogy?
100%. In fact, I've been invited to several services from my Protestant and my Catholic brethren. Okay, obviously, I can't wear any kind of sacramental robes or vestments. So basically, what I would wear, if the Uniceo would hand me my robe over there. See, show and tell. I didn't get up out of my seat. All right. So
you just got up out of your seat.
I did get up out of my seat. Okay. So if I am going to go to another church, all right, this would be the extent then of what I could wear. So we'll just put this on here, right? So the andari, again, not the long sleeves, right? But different from the raso. This is not a raso. This is an andari. So this would be what I would wear. I don't have to wear the collar, but I would wear this. This would indicate my clerical status, and I could attend but not participate.
Real quick, because I've gotten this question a few times. What is that particular collar with the slits so you can see just a little bit of white? What does that symbolize?
What does it symbolize?
Yeah, what does it symbolize? Or is it just a quick way to identify a priest?
It's just, that's all. That's all. The entire outfit is what identifies the priest. And again, the difference being that that the stitching, right, that's around the collars for clerical garb or an acolyte will be black, but for a chanter it will be red. And that's how you can make a little bit of a differentiation. Of course, the chanters will have the big, long, more of the raso, then they'll have the andari.
It's to keep them attentive because it's a tripping hazard.
Yes, there you go. That's right. That's right. And they can hide everything under there, right? They can hide the cigar under there and their garlic and.
So that's why our chanters don't wear robes.
That's
you don't want them to bring in that vile garlic.
That's right. Well, that is that is the old chanter's secret, is to gargle with garlic water to keep the throat lubricated. So who knew, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Terry did. So that's why when Terry chants, that's why they kind of, they're not so close.
All right. So Medieval Guitar's question is, so good evening. What do we mean by saying Lord have mercy thrice during the mealtime prayer, at least as it appears in prayer books? Thank you.
Thrice, 3 times.
Yeah. And again, everything with threes always goes back to Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? And look, in the liturgy, we have it once. Okay, but there are certain times in the liturgy we say it 3 times. And then there's places in the liturgy where we say it 12 times. And then there are places in the service where we say it 40 times. So again, you can't really say that we always do it 3 times because it all depends upon the service and the context. But where it is done 3 times is, again, just a representation or a remembrance of the Holy Trinity. But the number in itself does not really have, we don't want to attach too much symbolism to that because we say, Lord have mercy, different numbers of times in different services.
Right. Okay, Nicholas, next question. How can you baptize a child from a mixed marriage?
Because it doesn't matter who the parents are. Baptism is a personal thing. So if the parents are Muslim, I can baptize their child. It doesn't matter about the parent. The parents can be atheist, agnostic, Christian, Jewish, Muslim. The child is being baptized, not the parents. Now, this is why I have to have an Orthodox sponsor, because they have to have an Orthodox presence in their life. Okay, so if the parents were Muslim and they said, okay, now I want my Muslim brother to be the sponsor, I'd have to say no to that. But the baptism is only about the child
And what's the
or the candidate.
And what's the extent of a sponsor? They have so I want to pick in the example used. I want to use my brother. But he's Muslim. So how far out can you go in terms of family tree or connections?
Well, again, the sponsor really should not be of the immediate family. Sponsor should not be from the immediate family. They should be somebody that is outside the family that helps the family to spiritually grow. Okay, so the sponsor has to be Orthodox, and the sponsor has to be a member in good standing of the church. They have to live a Christian life. Okay, those would be the requirements. Now, even on our website, we've got all the requirements for being an Orthodox sponsor. And then I have an article in there about the responsibilities associated with being a sponsor. All right, but those are the things that you'd want to look for in your sponsor is number one, somebody that is outside your family that would be a good influence on that child. You know, somebody that would take them to church. You know, somebody that might, for their name day, would buy them, let's say, their first Bible or an icon or something that keeps Orthodoxy in their life. Because maybe the parents aren't necessarily practicing Orthodox so much, and the Orthodox sponsor will help in that.
Wayfaring is next. Is listening to subliminals a sin for Orthodox Christians?
Self-help.
I mean, no, this argument kind of goes, I'm thinking about the yoga argument. You got priests out there that say, you cannot do yoga, okay. New age, right? Okay. If you are getting into all of the spirituality component of the yoga, the answer is no. You shouldn't be doing that, okay? All right. But if you are taking the physical principles, stretching, right, so that yoga provides you with good stretching when you're older, that you can't really do hard physical exercise, it helps with your breathing techniques. Those are physical aspects that are good for you. Okay, fine. They come out of yoga, but who cares? Okay, but if all of a sudden now you're in the lotus position going, okay, then maybe we got a question there, all right? And then the same thing with self-help. There's nothing wrong with self-help videos, okay? But when they try to now, there's nothing wrong with self-help videos, but when they try to attach that spiritual component to them and they start saying things like, if you take these techniques, you will discover a spirituality that is beyond what you can fathom.
A new plane of existence.
A new plane of existence with these crystals and all that kind of... No, that's absolutely out, all right? But we can use the scientific benefits of self-help, of yoga, toga, whatever the...
most martial arts from Eastern martial arts have a spiritual components to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I even if you were doing yoga, right, and they're saying, get in touch with your spirituality or the energy of the universe. As a Christian, you know the truth of what that
is. Right. You just can't participate in it. I mean, yeah. Terry's Terry was in karate for a long time, and she obtained all of her belts. Got to black belt, but I never saw her come home and have a Japanese, stand and burning incense. She never did any of that, right? So that was all good.
No, she's just a master of karate, so you don't even know that it's there. She's that stealthy.
She's that stealthy. That's right. That's right. I keep wondering, why do I wake up all bruised and hurting? So I know what that is now. Okay.
So you want to confess some abuse here?
So I know I can go down the rabbit's hole with this.
No, she protects me. So when we walk, when we walk through the ball, she's like,
black belt for your black robe.
For a black belt for the black robe. I like it. So anyway, rabbit hole.
Rabbit hole. I mean, like you could take a lot of different things. How about football, American football? It's played on Sundays, right? The NFL. So people who say Sunday should be a day of rest. Why are we playing football on Sundays? And it's a rough sport. It can promote violence. This is more of an extreme view that maybe some people have, but
Oh no, I mean,
so should we play football then, or should that be allowed? Right. So
well, if we are replacing any sport with the worship of God, then we're wrong. I mean,
you should flip that if we're replacing the worship of God with any sport.
oh, with any sport, yes. Okay, we're replacing the worship of God, right? And again, to get back to that point of people that say, "Oh, the liturgy is the same every week. Father, can't you change the liturgy and make it more exciting?" The liturgy is not for you to get entertainment value. The liturgy is there to worship God. Our liturgy is the work of the people, which is to worship God. All right. So, and we have set aside as Christians a particular time on the Lord's Day, Sunday, that we will do that. When you now say that, no, I don't want to give that hour to God, I want to watch sports, I want to do sports, you're wrong. I mean, I can't slice that up nicely, you know. You have made a decision. I'm not saying you, but, you know, people have made the decision. They do not want to worship God. They do not want to take time out of their day to worship God. They want now to go and play sports. You've made your decision. You have free will. It is what it is.
Well, I mean, yeah, if we're going down this rabbit hole, but there are some jobs, okay, that require you to work on.
That's a job. We're not.
Yeah.
I was saying sports.
Well, you know, I was thinking, but for athletes, for like if you're in football, that is a job.
Then okay, so I mean, I hate to be harsh here, but you know, you have to make a decision about the job and will it fit your Christian style. Now, okay, so let's say you play football, all right, but so now you worship on, you know, you worship on Monday. There's always an Orthodox church, or there's always a church that will allow Catholics. The Catholic Church has mass every single day. We don't have mass every single day, but most churches are having, you know, something, right? You always have the opportunity to pray. But so in that sense, okay, I get it. This is your professional life. You have to play. The coach says that you have to play on Sunday, but then that coach has to understand that there has to be a time for me now to go to church and to worship God.
See, this is why I think I'm lucky, because, you know, my job has to have me at church every Sunday.
Yeah, you did luck out. You did luck out.
all right.
But that's a difficult thing. I mean, you know, and one more thing just to quickly add, you know, you have to decide if your job supports Christian values, right? Okay. I mean, when I was, you know, way before I was being a priest, I mean, you know, my second job was engineering weapons of mass destruction. I mean, that was part of our job. That's what we did, right? Okay, that's different from being a soldier. Okay, as a soldier, right, I am defending my country. I am following lawful orders. But as a civilian, if I place myself in a job that I know that makes weapons that kill and injure, is that the proper role for me? I think not. So that wasn't a proper job for me to have as a Christian.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah.
Well, that rabbit hole got deep.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
We could have gone.
But
I'm just wondering whether or not
There
you
were
should be a
notes
little bit more
there.
specific in what your job was, so people don't think the worst thing.
Tank ammunition. You know, designing tank ammunition. Okay, and unfortunately, I mean, you know, we were designing tank ammunition to do very specific things to human beings. Oh,
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I know. We could keep going down that hole. Interesting. So, all right. Megsy is next. Migs, excuse me. If the churches were to unify again, naming of the church aside, do you think there will be priests and bishops on both sides who oppose communionship and create their own church?
Oh, without a doubt. There are certain. I mean, I have to speak more on the Orthodox side than the Catholic side, but there are certainly Orthodox priests and bishops who feel that this whole idea of ecumenism is absolutely satanic, and I think that absolutely that will happen. Is that if the Orthodox Church in general reunites, that there will be elements, I think, from both sides, certainly from the Orthodox side, that will say that they will no longer be part of a heretical church.
Perfect. All right. Right. So we can go back through to some other secondary questions or third questions.
So somebody did mention rest in peace, Bob Saget.
Oh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Did you ever see? Well, he's looking up the next question. Did you ever see his comedy?
It's pretty raunchy, right?
Yeah, it was always a kick seeing the cleanest dad on TV
Hey.
in Full House being the raunchiest. But what is the that take of, since somebody mentioned Bob Saget, right? And so he goes on TV, he does a show which, as corny as Full House was, right?
Mm-hmm.
The values that it imparted
Were
were
good.
values.
Right.
Now, how does Orthodoxy feel about the fact that his comedy off the show was so raunchy? Is that considered a sin in Orthodoxy?
I think it falls into, it falls back into our rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
He is, there's nothing wrong with the profession of comedy, all right, but you can't be hypocritical. I think that's where the Orthodox Church would have an issue, is that it's a hypocritical behavior, because on one hand, he is portraying, right, this idea of, a very, loving, Christian father, but then he's portraying these other values here that are inconsistent with a Christian lifestyle. Okay, so the Orthodox Church would probably argue on the basis of hypocrisy first, and then secondly, it can be berating and a stumbling block to those who are in the audience who do find that kind of comedy offensive.
And then they don't buy the ticket.
Right, but let's say let's say the husband really likes it, but the wife doesn't really like it, but he's like, come on, you got to go and you got to come and see it.
More people for confession.
Yeah, so
I don't know what his religion was in general. I'll just ask him the question in general sense.
yeah, and like I said, I think it falls in that same kind of rabbit hole.
Perfect. So we do still have some first questions to go. The Themo is always my pronunciator. We got the French Dinge guy, right? Am I butchering? French Dinge guy. All right. So their question is, "Hi, Father. How important is the Greek language in Orthodoxy?"
So the answer is yes. It's important. All right. It's important because the laity has to hear the scripture in its original language. That's the only way they can be free, is to hear it in its original language. And if you take that original language away, and it just happens to be Greek, right? It is what it is. I mean, it's not like the Greeks rewrote it or anything like that. It was Greek. It is Greek. It was what it is. All right. If you take the Greek away, then you, as laity, are prisoner of the person who translated it into English. You are listening to their translation. And as you've heard me say many times in Bible study, Greek, like any other language, is a fluid language. Things have different meanings. You don't just say a word and it has one meaning. Okay, like English, it's fluid. It could have different meanings depending upon the context in which it's used. All right. If we as the church take the Greek away, then whatever you hear in English, the question is, whose translation is that? Is that your translation? Is that Jerome's translation? Whose translation is that? And then when I give my sermon on the gospel, and I say things like the Greek means this, this, and this. How do you know that? So you have to be able to hear it in its original language so that you can be free to make that interpretation for yourself and listen to what the commentators have to say. The Holy Fathers, the patristic studies, the canons of the church. So it's wrong to take the Greek out of the church. Now, having said that, okay, it is inappropriate, let's say in my parish, to have an all Greek liturgy, because I'm not speaking the language of the people. But equally so, it's not right to have an all English liturgy, because then I'm denying them the right to be able to hear it in its original language. So there has to be an appropriate balance for that.
Okay, great. Anthony's question is next. How involved does a priest get when it comes to divorce? My local priest turned me down to sit down with me due to conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest.
Certainly. I mean, if it's his sibling, that's conflict of interest. So there might be some. There certainly could be some validity to that. The very, very, very unfortunate thing, and that really, is kind of one of those priest gripes, is that by the time they by the time they want to come to the priest for marriage counseling, they are already past the point of no return. Okay, so they'll come to me, and no. One person will come to me. This is the way it always goes. One person comes to me and says, "My spouse is the worst, and you have to show her why I'm right." Okay, that's not the way that it works. I have to be able to meet with the both of you. I'm not doing that. I'm not sitting down with him, her, blah, blah, right? Okay, so it's unfortunate that what should happen is that as these problems are happening, that the priest is one of those people that can serve as a counselor. All right? Okay, I'm going to break the rule here. Like, just give me. See, that was easy. This is why we have premarital counseling. This Journey in Marriage, which was written by Dr. Philip Mamalakis, who was one of my instructors at Holy Cross. Excellent book. Excellent book. Because what it does is it takes the couple through the kinds of problems that they are more than likely going to encounter in their married life. Okay. Having done this, over 30 times now, what I have seen is by the time we get to the end of this, people are like, you know what? I never really thought about that. That's really good. That was very good. And that couple now will text me or call me and say, "Hey, Father, can I ask you a question? I got my husband, my wife is doing this. What do you think?" And I can counsel them. So with premarital, so I think part of it is our fault. Is that we have not done a good job in preparing young couples for marriage. I mean, what did we get? Did we get a premarital counseling? No, we didn't get a premarital counseling. And when I read this book, I'm looking at it going, if I would have known some of this stuff, I wouldn't have had to go through, the heartache, because things I should have known. No, heartache in a good way.
Good heartache?
No, like knowing. Okay, I'll give you one example, right? Okay, so what this book brings out is that, a wife does not always want you to solve her problems, right? Sometimes she just wants you to listen to the problems while she tries to figure it out. Okay, I did not know that. So for many, many years, she would say something to me as a problem, and then I would be, here are the solutions. This is what we need to do, this and this and this and this. So finally she's like, shut up. I just want you to listen to what I have to say. I will solve the problem. If I would have done this, it would have saved me heartache. That's the kind of heartache I'm talking about, okay? Because, my wife is never a problem. It's always me, right? Because she's perfect.
She has a black belt, so that's why.
She has a black belt, right? But no, seriously. Now that I demand or I require require premarital counseling, those couples that I marry know me personally, and they have no compulsion now about texting me or calling me and just kind of getting advice and nip it in the bud before it becomes a big problem. I think this is a huge solution to some of the issues that we've been having.
Excellent. All right, so empirical blade is next.
What a name.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you, Father. My first question would be, what does it mean to become culturally Byzantine? As a culturally Latin, what does it mean for me to become Byzantine? Does it mean we Hellenize? Thanks.
No. What it means at its root is chill out, relax, all right? So the first thing, one of the huge differences at its core between the East and the West, between Catholicism and Orthodoxy, is the fact that we can accept that not everything has an answer. You got to chill out, all right? So we don't have to explain everything. We don't necessarily, and where you see this creeping into Orthodoxy is our over desire to symbolize everything. Everything has to have a symbol. Okay, no, it doesn't. Okay, we know who Jesus Christ is. We don't need to have a million symbols, and that comes from that scholastic idea of needing to explain everything. Okay, so again, small example: the Great Entrance. Okay, the Great Entrance was something that helped us remember the way liturgy was done in the 4th century, that the articles for communion, the bread, the wine, were all brought forward in procession. Okay, well, we don't need that anymore. We don't do that anymore. Okay, so we still do it to remember the act, but we shroud it in, this is the entry of Jesus into Jerusalem, and okay, that's not bad, but we don't have to symbolize everything. So that's when you talk about a Byzantine mind, the first thing is relax and know that you can't know everything. All right, that's number one. And then number two is the fact that solutions are dependent upon the person. So don't get into this mode of here's the question and here is the universal answer. The answer, here's the question, Orthodoxy depends. Let me hear the situation. What is your situation? So that's, I think, the second thing of a Byzantine mind, is just being able to do that. And then I'd say the third thing for Orthodoxy is to recognize that we have apostolic tradition, that we are connected. It is a good thing to be connected to our past because it gives us an anchor. And what we have in the West is we have this idea that old is bad and new is good. And we have to get away from that. So I would say those are the top three things I would think that enter into that Byzantine mind.
We have a $5 super chat from Aaron asking us, reminding us he has a second question, which I'll ask now. What we're trying to do tonight is we want to make sure that at least everybody has one of their questions answered, and then we go back and ask the additional questions. We just want to make sure everybody has a voice. So Aaron's second question was, Father, if I have recently confessed and say a short time later fall into that sin again, do I schedule another confession or make my private confession to God at home, acknowledge my sin, and continue on?
All right, so you got to think about it. Okay, I don't want to make it exact. Don't go anti-orthodox on me here. But think about it like AA, right? In AA, you get a Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay, you get a partner, and when you fall into relapse, or you're thinking that you're going to fall into relapse, they teach you, call your accountability partner. And get on the phone with him and talk with him, and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking about. And then they kind of bring you back from the edge, right? And kind of bring you back in. It's the same thing with the priest. Okay. So it doesn't, it doesn't necessarily have to be a formal confession. Okay. But there's no problem in calling him up on the phone and just saying, hey, Father, man, I'm really struggling. You got 5 to talk, and then the priest usually will pick up the phone and kind of talk you off the edge, so to speak. Okay. So if it becomes really grave, he may say, you know what, hey, why don't we, this really sounds bad. Why don't we sit down and talk about this? But it could be as easy as a phone call or a text. Hey, Father, whenever you got 5, give me a call. I'm kind of stressing. I've got parishioners that do that here on a regular basis with me. So, and I see that as part of confession, of overall confession. Sometimes it's actual confession right in the church, but other times it's a phone call. I'm sitting in their restaurant and talking. We go out to have a coffee or something like that. So confession for me has a much larger connotation than just the physicality of being in the church.
All right, up next, Santa
Man 1.
Man 1.
Have we heard from him in a while? I don't know. I think her could be. Oh, yeah, Santa Man 1. Okay.
Quite similar names. Am I correct in my assumption that a spiritual father does not need to be ordained?
Okay. The answer to the question is the reason I'm thinking about this is because if there are, and Benedetta can also help me out with this. I know that many people go to the monastery and they confess there, but I believe that the monks they are confessing to are at least priests. That they are priests. I don't believe that because confession is a the sacrament of absolution is a sacrament, it has to be done by clergy. So I know that people go to monasteries, but I am not aware myself personally of any situation where someone is receiving confession and absolution from a non-ordained clergy. Now, that's
it's a spiritual father. Is that something that you need to expect from a spiritual father, that he can do confession or?
Well, yeah, the expectation. I mean, because he is the term father. Okay, if you are not ordained, you can't be referred to as a father, right? Okay. Now, the second reason why the church stresses that this should be ordained clergy is because I have been involved, unfortunately, with people who have received horrible confession advice, where they have been ridiculed, where they have been made to feel like their sin is so bad that they could not be forgiven, and so the spiritual father has to have training in our theology, so that he can answer the questions compassionately, with mercy, understanding, but with a firm hand, and be able to dispense the right penance for where that person is. And uneducated people can do more damage to somebody than they realize. And I've unfortunately seen the effects of that.
I've seen the effects of that too. I remember one girl she went to her first confession, and she came home crying because apparently, according to that priest, it was a terrible, terrible sin to listen to the devil-possessed Beatles.
Again, like anything, if I would have gone in for my hip surgery and asked the doctor, so, are you a doctor? And he says, no, I just read a couple of books and we're going to perform surgery. I'd be like, hey, yeah, we're not doing this. No, we're not going here.
Of all the music, really, you're gonna go after the Beatles?
Well, why didn't they go after Elvis Presley's hips, right?
Oh,
I mean, they wouldn't even show that, right?
God forbid.
No, it's the haircut. It's just the mod haircut.
Mm-hmm.
They're just jealous that he looks better than most priests. Looked,
yeah.
Now, I don't know. Maybe he still does.
I know.
All right.
Paul McCartney looks pretty good still, right?
Not my type, but yeah, whatever works.
All right, Adonis is up to bat next.
Adonis?
Donis.
Oh, okay. I thought it was
with
Adonis.
D is in Delta. So, how does a priest move from one parish to another? What is the process?
Oh, that's real easy. Bishop says, you're going to now a new parish. It's very easy. Sometimes a priest will request, and again, using the military term here, sometimes a priest will request a compassionate reassignment. Let's say that that his spouse or his kids need to be near a special hospital for maybe a cancer or something that they have, and the priest will compassionately reassign them to a parish that is close to that hospital. But 99% of the time, the bishop makes the decision about where to place his priests, and it is typically not the priest's decision.
Can it sometimes be if there's problems the priest can't adapt to that diocese? And
Yeah,
If you could repeat that.
right. And and usually the priest will do, usually the bishop will do that for reasons that the priest is not a good fit for the parish, or the priest has a skill set that is needed in a particular parish. So it's not just kind of the bishop willy-nilly puts people wherever he wants. It's done with purpose. And like I said, sometimes that purpose is that, as our bishop likes to say, the marriage between parish and priest isn't working out. Or they need a particular priest for who they are or what their situation is.
And what's the transition timeline usually? A matter of weeks, months, right? Or is it all dependent?
Tomorrow.
Yeah. Is it...
Yeah, what was our transition time to Rochester? A month?
not even that.
Yeah, not even that, right? Couple of weeks. So yeah, you're usually at least given, the typical 2 weeks, but it can be anywhere from 2 weeks to a couple of months.
So, I mean, what are the chances that the bishop will say, come here and say, Father Maggos, in 2 weeks, you're out of Rochester? I mean, what are the chances of that happening?
Hey, he can do whatever he wants, right? And again, and some priests fight against that. But, the bishop is very, very clear when or before you go for ordination, and our bishop is very particular about this. Before you are ordained, the bishop asks, are you willing to be under the control and under the obedience of the bishop? He asks you that question. And if you say yes, and he says, and you know that it entails this and this and this and this, and you say yes, and then he turns to the presbyter and he says, do you agree that when he becomes Father Angelo, that are you in agreement that he will be obedient, and then that will require you to move also? And then the presbyter has to nod her head. And for our bishop, if the presbyter says no, he doesn't ordain you. I like that, because he understands the sanctity of marriage.
Can I make one little side note? Do you think your military background helped you with this?
Yeah. I mean, when I look back,
lifestyle change, or is it...
Absolutely. In fact, I think my whole entire life, looking back in Revelation, is preparation for this, because we're much. We had 12 military moves. So we are very accustomed to how to move, and given the word, you got to go. So yes, absolutely, that did prepare me for that.
All right. So Toby is next. Can an Orthodox
No,
marry...
and I'm not going anywhere, by the way. Get Rochester all excited.
We built the studio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We're done.
So Toby's question is, can an Orthodox marry a non-Orthodox?
Absolutely. The answer is yes. In fact, the Orthodox, though, can only marry Christian. So we only have inter-Christian marriage. So the Orthodox can marry a Catholic and they can marry a Protestant, all right? But they cannot interfaith marry. So that's from different faiths then. But absolutely, I have many, many people in my parish where the spouse is either Protestant or they're Catholic.
Perfect. All right. So Napoleon's question is, the law says to honor your parents, but what if they tell you to do conflicting things or command something that is illogical or irrational?
So you do have the command to honor thy mother and father, but the mother and father also have to earn that honor. Okay, so it's not a one-way street here. So they have to be worthy of that honor. So now, again, we want to be careful here because, parents tell their kids to do certain things, and the kids see that as, why are you making me do that? But sometimes they have a very good reason for why they do that. Okay, if the parent says, hey, go downtown and buy me a pack of cigarettes, in the 70s and 60s and 70s, we could do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but now, that is not appropriate. Okay.
In the 80s, I remember my parents.
In the 80s, they were still.
My mother asked me
All right.
to go pick, yeah.
But to have a parent ask a child to do immoral or unethical things is inappropriate. All right, but they have to be worthy of that honor. But just because they discipline a child does not make them not worthy of that honor.
Great. Okay, so we're going through Trench's second question. If an Orthodox cannot question higher ups, then why should other Christian sects or religion to find the truth about Orthodoxy when they do the same to not question?
Okay, so the statement is false. There is always, the Orthodox Church always says that you can question what is being done, whether it's being done by the deacon, by the bishop, or by the priest. The laity always has the right to question what is being done, and they deserve a valid and logical answer. They deserve that, okay? The answer from the priest cannot be, that's what we do, or it's tradition. That's not an answer. The church has to be able to answer logically why we do what we do, and we can do that in every case, all right? So that starts from a false premise, because you are, as laity, encouraged and allowed to question when you feel that something is not appropriate. But having received the answer, and if the answer is appropriate and logical, then you have to accept it. It doesn't mean that you like it, but you have to accept that it is true. Okay, so we can take cremation, all right? So the priest says, I'm sorry, but I can't do a funeral service for you because you want to have your father cremated, all right? The Orthodox Church can say that. The laity is allowed to question that and say, oh, wait a minute now, why can I not have my father cremated? And the Orthodox Church will offer her answers to why that is. And then you can say to that, well, you know what? I don't like it. I don't think it's right, but I will either accept it and I will not have my father cremated, or I will go and have my father cremated and understand that I can't have an Orthodox funeral. So you absolutely can question, but once you receive the answer, then you have to decide from there what you're going to do.
All right, thank you. So Ha's question is next. It's their second question. Prosperity gospel is not true, the church says, but nations with mostly Christians prosper more than non-Christians. So isn't it a side effect of the true Christianity to prosper?
I'm thinking that not. I think we're making a false logic statement. So Christian countries prosper
More than
They're-
non-Christian
right.
countries.
prosper more than others, ergo Christianity equals prosperity. I don't think we can make that logic statement, all right? Because I'm trying to let's see. I mean, I'm trying to think of China is a non-Christian country, and it has prospered very well. it's almost on the border of being an international economy. So China has prospered very, very well. Okay,
South
Japan.
Korea, Japan. Yeah,
Japan has prospered very well. They are not. I mean, there is certainly some Christian elements in there. Okay, but I think that our prosperity has come more from the fact that the West were innovators. I mean, that's where the scientists and the technicians and the and generally the not the smart people, but where science really kind of got hold, and science led to manufacturing and industry leads to prosperity. Okay, and there were many people in industry who were not necessarily Christian. Okay, so I don't think that's a good logic statement to make. That prosperity equals Christianity equals prosperity. All right, because we have examples where non-Christian countries have become prosperous.
Can we say there's some Central American or African nations that are predominantly Christian nations, right?
Yeah.
That
Well,
really prospered.
well, only because like the Ethiopians, right? I mean, we don't say necessarily that they are as prosperous. Now, they are Orthodox, clearly, right? But they are not as prosperous, let's say, as the West, right?
That's the prosperity index, 2021, I believe.
The prosperity index.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
Denmark is number one.
so Denmark is number one, and actually, now Denmark was certainly the hot seat of Protestantism, right? Of Protestantism Reformation, right? But now, I mean, I don't know what the Christianity. So yeah, there's a large percentage now of that is atheist. All right. So yeah, I'd be careful with that connection there.
Yeah. We can entertain another question.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Let's do a lightning round of the last few.
All right.
questions.
The
As long as they're
dinosaur
not
head. Yeah.
Boaz and Ruth, because that's not a lightning round. I got to
no,
investigate.
we have a lot more than
The dinosaur head is next. Is Pope Gregory's statement during the Council of Carthage proof of anti-papal supremacy? Whoever of us shall call ourselves universal priests or bishops is the precursor of the Antichrist.
So we're gonna be having. I'm taking a little short walk here. On March 12th, we're going to be having our guest speaker is going to come as our Lenten speaker. Dr. Gina Constantino is going to come, and she's going to speak about thinking Orthodox. And one of the things in her book that she talks about that is very, very, very true is the fact that before you make a statement about a particular statement that somebody has made throughout history, you have to read that statement in the context that it was given. Because what people are very famous of doing is extracting a single comment and then saying, here's what this guy said, so therefore he is this. And so in her book, Dr. Constantino says that thinking Orthodox always means taking what was said in the context of the fuller reading. So in order to answer that question fairly, then what I'd have to do is take it as a homework assignment and read the entire context of what Pope Gregory was saying.
All right. So
Is that Pope Gregory, right?
Yeah.
yes. Got that. And all right, Aaron's question. All right. Ready? Okay.
Yeah.
So this one is what should one do if after taking Holy Communion they suddenly become sick later in the day and were to vomit? Should a particular action be taken?
No, because again, we don't want to look at it in that. And actually, it's kind of funny because I've had, some young teens ask me the question if it's okay to go to the bathroom after receiving communion, because do I, pee Christ out? They're just asking me, and the answer, no, I mean they did, okay,
It's an honest question.
It's an honest question, right? Okay. And the answer is no. I mean, you receive him internally, but it's not in a scientific way, right? That he breaks down molecularly through your intestines and all that. It's not that. You receive Christ in his body and blood internally, and then that now enlightens you. Okay, that he becomes part of you. But, if you have some illness later on and you have to vomit or whatever like that, no, you don't have to worry about that.
We have a few last minute super chats. Tommy has a question. If a bishop is a heretic, who can stop him? Can it be a priest, as in only a patriarch can remove a bishop? Three bishops are required to ordain, and 3 bishops, they always have to be removed by a synod. No single person can remove a bishop, okay? So the bishop would be removed by a synod. Anybody can lay a claim against clergy. Anybody, okay? If they feel that clergyman, priest, deacon, or bishop is doing something that they feel is unlawful or heretical. Now, that council of bishops then has to make the determination if that is a true heresy of what they're doing. And if they do, then they can defrock that bishop or that priest. Absolutely. All right, we're at 8:30, but we have a lot of questions.
Really?
I'm going to go through some of the ones
I thought it was
we
a
haven't
slow
gotten
night.
to real quick and try to answer them shortly. So real fast, M. Horvath, do Orthodox Christians daily read the scriptures or do personal contemplative prayer?
It would be nice if we read the scriptures daily, but no, we do not.
Some do.
Some do. Yes, some. Okay, yes. Okay, I'd be fair. Some. Yes. There are some that do read scriptures daily. I'm just thinking about my household. That was never our.
All right, Miggs. The Roman Catholic and Orthodox Catholic churches have many similarities in the traditional Mass and divine liturgy, meaning to me the apostles had similar services. I assume they varied like some Orthodox churches vary now. Why do so many Protestant churches have drastically different services?
Because they've lost apostolic tradition. I mean, if you can't maintain the tradition that St. Paul told the churches, the church of Ephesus, the church of Corinth, the church of Thessaloniki, he told all those churches, keep the traditions, both oral and written, that I have given to you. And if you lose that, then you have no obligation to follow that tradition. And if you don't have a tradition, then you have to create a tradition. And this is what happens.
Santa Man 1. Saint Roberta would be a female derivative of Bob. Mm-hmm. So there is. I knew this would happen the moment I said Bob.
I still haven't heard Bob, though.
Robert.
No, but remember, Terry's dad is Bob. He's not Robert.
Well, Terry's dad is not a saint.
Well, okay, but...
Well, in your eyes, I'm sure.
Bob is a derivative of Robert.
Yeah, Bob is a derivative of Robert. So there we go. Dinosaur Head. What are the things a Catholic or other denomination must affirm when becoming Orthodox?
That's a lightning round question I'm going to answer in 5 seconds?
Yeah, well, it's the main. That was something very, very specific.
Oh, okay. That you will abide by the canons and the discipline of the Orthodox Church.
What was the point of making Immaculate Conception a dogma on the Catholic side, and why is it a point of refutation on the Orthodox side?
Yeah, I mean, the Orthodox Church has the same exact question. Why are you making this a dogma? It is extra biblical, right? It is not in Scripture, all right? So we have plenty of things that are theologoumena, which are interesting and good to know, but are not dogma. So we don't have many things that are dogma. And so that was our point exactly, is why should the Dormition be a dogma of the church? It's not necessary for salvation.
All right. A couple more. We have one from Dominus Domain. I have a question that a friend asked me a long time ago. When a person converts to Orthodoxy from Catholic, do they need to find a new godmother or godfather or stay with the original?
From Orthodoxy to Catholic, right? Or either way, I guess.
Converts to Orthodoxy from Catholic. That matters.
Yeah, because they're going to have to talk to the priest about that. That's tricky, because certainly the Orthodox godparent is going to be more knowledgeable about Orthodoxy than Catholicism. So what they're going to teach them is Orthodoxy. And I give you the example. I mean, we, in my in previous parishes, I've had the situation, before me, that the godparent was Catholic, and so they taught the child things like, we believe in original sin, and then the priest has got to go back and say, no, they don't believe. And what?
Well, when a person becomes Orthodox, they have a sponsor.
Right.
And so that sponsor is their godparent.
Right, but does the Orthodox godparent no longer a godparent? I mean, okay, I guess they could get a Catholic sponsor, right? And we're just, both Presbyterian and I are talking that in the Orthodox Church, even if you had a Catholic godparent, you would have to have an Orthodox sponsor. So in the Catholic Church, I would assume the same thing happens, is that the Catholic priest would ask you for a Catholic sponsor. But I'm not.
All right. Two more to end the evening. Real quick, M. Horvath, does a priest's wife help him minister to people, maybe counseling in general or meeting with women or girls for spiritual growth?
Different presbyteros have different roles in the church, but yes, the presbytera is not there in a pastoral role. That's not her responsibility. If she wants to take that on, that's okay, but sometimes that can become difficult, because if the presbytera gets too involved, then it can conflict with what the priest is trying to do within his own parish. So there has to be a balance there. And I think where that balance is good is that, and again, I'm personally saying here, is that the presbytera should be part of organizations, but she should not necessarily lead those organizations. Not that she's not capable, but what can happen is that she is taking the ability of the parish to lead themselves. It's their organizations. They need to lead their own organizations. The presbytera can be there for advice, to be a member, to help counsel. But to lead, I think, is somewhat inappropriate, because you're taking the leadership responsibility away from the parish itself. Now, does my presbytera, help me? Certainly. I'll ask her many times, hey, this is what I heard here and here and here. What do you think? Or you've met this person. What do you think I should do here? Certainly not about confession. We're not talking about confession, but just if I'm meeting somebody, and like let's say I've met Demos for the first time, and I'm talking to Demo, and then I will say, hey, Demos, let's go out to lunch sometime. And he'll say, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
Especially if you're buying.
And especially, right, the first time I'm always buying. And then I'll invite presbytera along, and we'll have lunch. And the reason I'm inviting her along, part of the reason I'm inviting her along, is I want her to get a read on Demos and tell me, what kind of person is he, Is he a kooky guy, a crazy guy? Is he actually smart, Does he know what he's talking about?
All the above are true.
All the above are true. So that's kind of the relationship that Terry and I have, between priest and presbytera.
All right. Demo bestowed the last blitz question on me. So the final question of the night. Father, did you become a Christian during your work as an engineer designing weapons? Was that your coming to Jesus moment?
Well, I was Christian when I was baptized. So, I mean, I didn't. So when you say was I Christian? Yes, of course I was Christian. But I don't want to. No, it wasn't a coming to Jesus moment. I didn't have a revelation. Angels didn't come down or anything like that. But the only reason I thought about it was that we were going to church. And I got to thinking about it, and I'm like, this is probably not the best thing for me to be doing, okay? And it actually turned out that my next role after that was the Army. So actually that kind of solved the problem for me, because he took me out of it, and off we went. But it wasn't like it came to me, but it was because I was going to a church, and then that church kind of got me to thinking about, what are you doing? And then that led me to think about maybe this is not the best thing. But I wouldn't call it a coming to Jesus moment.
did you compromise with yourself, saying that you're doing this for your country, and that makes it easier to deal with something like that?
I'd love to say that, but I was too young and stupid to be thinking that kind of logically. I had a job and I was making money.
But that always does, and we've said this on the show before. It distinguishes you as a priest, because a lot of priests tend they tend to start young,
Right.
But you've had a chance to live in what others will call the secular world.
Yeah.
You lived out there. You were like you lived a full life practically as one of us. So you understand better.
Us,
You're in a
one
position.
of
Yeah,
us.
well, exactly. You're like a freak like us. So. So, I mean, that's given you an opportunity to be able to better speak. When somebody has a marriage issue, you've been married, you've had those issues.
Yeah, and when when a parent comes to me and says, "Hey, my son, my daughter, they want to join the military. What do you think?" I can provide them a perspective on that. Unfortunately, a lot of my friends in college, they were heavy into drugs. So I have some exposure with what that looks like. I was not a partaker, but I mean, I have that experience. I've seen what LSD looks like. I know what coke looks like. I know what weed looks like. Does anybody say weed anymore?
I didn't know those drugs were as prolific in the 1920s.
19s, yes, yeah, in the 1920s. That's right. We just had opium dens, right? Yeah.
And Trench answered one of my questions. The collar symbolizes compromise.
Well, I mean, again, I don't agree with everything that Trent says, but there are times when he speaks the truth, and to some extent, wearing this collar is a compromise. Okay, we are compromising on the fact that people don't understand this, right? Because to this means another religion, and this, right, is what Americans understand normally as a Christian clergy. Right, so we are making a compromise. I can't tell him that he's wrong. We should be wearing this, right? I mean, you go to Greece, nobody's wearing this in Greece. They're wearing this because this is recognized culturally as clerical garb.
All right. Well, there are a lot of questions we didn't get to, but keep them coming. If we didn't get to your question tonight, save it for next week. And like I said before, we're trying to make sure that as many of you get a voice. We have a great group that tunes in every week. We're very grateful, but we want to make sure that as many new voices get a chance to have their questions, so we can keep expanding this group. I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight.
And again, Dan, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Presbytera, again, thank you for your research capabilities and correcting some of the things that I kind of drift off a little bit. And Demos, as always, you are the producer, man. You are the man.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're not going to make you a saint, but you are the man.
There's always a Saint Demosthenes. I'll be my own thing. The church will have to invent something.
Oh my goodness! It's the Demosthenes truth. Now we have another truth.
Yeah. Except my truth is better. Just.
All right. Hey, everybody. Thank you very much. Have a great week. And we'll be seeing you live streaming on Sunday for sure. And then we'll be back on Thursday.
All right. Good night, everyone.
Night.